2025, you were the longest year ever. And also, how are you already done? I'm Bobby. This is Shiny Brain. And let's go ahead as the year kind of winds down as I record this. Take a look back at the Switch 2's first 6 months of life and Nintendo's 2025 output through the lens of their, I guess, now current generation hybrid portable home console. It was super highly coveted and hyped, and I'm going to tell you some things that I didn't love about this year from Nintendo. But I gotta say, I think they nailed it largely. There's gonna be some things that, I don't love, but isn't there always? Let's just jump right in. We'll start with the negatives because I want to end positive with this because I think overall there's a lot to like about what we got from Nintendo this year. First of all, their first down in 2025 was those pre-orders in April. So we learn in the April Direct that there's going to be the pre-orders and it's going to be basically midnight on this one night in late April. And it was so bad. It was such a terrible experience. And it was really everyone's worst fears come to life because, we've all lived through highly hyped, coveted electronic launches in the last, I would say, 5 years. And it just feels like real people don't have a great chance to get them. I managed to get 2 Nintendo Switch pre-orders the night of the first pre-order reveal, but it took me, I think, 2 hours into past midnight for me to be able to get, I think I got a Walmart and a Target. And what I wanted was Best Buy. So, it was just a mess. And, I didn't scalp, by the way, the extra one. I ended up giving it as a gift to my wife. So the pre-order situation was just so bad. And it set a really bad kind of first impression for the Switch 2. But really, it's only been up from there. But hey, we're still on the quibbles. We're still on the grievances of Festivus. Next up, these 2 sections I'm about to talk about, you could mush them together. They're kind of the same idea, but I'm going to tackle them separately. And the first one is hardware prices. So some of these are things that I can give Nintendo a little bit of a break on, but I still think there's some, dirt we can dig up here and something to chew on when it comes to this stuff. So I'm just gonna get this part out of the way. Obviously, if you live in the United States, tariffs are a thing. We've heard about them. Basically, it was the same day. Nintendo had their big direct and the president had his big chart. It was the same exact day. So we saw the price of Nintendo accessories go up from the initial announcement of the price. The console itself has not gotten more expensive. It actually did go on sale for Black Friday. I was surprised by that. But it stayed at $450 for the base price and $500 for the Mario Kart bundle or $500 for the Pokemon Legends ZA bundle. But we've seen the prices of things like the Joy-Con or the Pro Controller or even the GameCube controller that Nintendo sells on its website creep up from their initial offerings. And now the Joy-Con, an extra pair of those, are $100. A Pro Controller, if you want one, doesn't come in the box. If you want a Pro Controller, that's $90. And the GameCube controller, which, as I've talked about before, is just a novelty. It's just for people my age who were like 12 when the GameCube came out and you want to be back in your feels in your long pajamas again. That's $70. So that's a lot to ask for what I would say that I don't know how many people need like an extra pair of Joy-Con. And so far there aren't like commemorative Joy-Con. Like we got a lot of special edition Joy-Con on the original Switch. We haven't gotten any of that yet on Switch 2. And I wonder with these prices, how many of those we see. But I think the Pro Controller is an essential accessory. I do think that this generation of Joy-Con is way better than the original Switch's Joy-Con was. Like, I could play a game with just the Joy-Con on the Switch 2 and be content with it. You wouldn't catch me dead doing that on Switch 1. It was so tiny, the buttons were so clicky. It wasn't for me, and I don't really know who it was for. You do have some third-party options if you want to get a different option from the Pro Controller, but as I've talked about in videos before, the thing that keeps me coming back to the Pro Controller is you can wake the Switch up remotely with it. And 8BitDo has come up with a crazy workaround for their stuff that involves like waving it or something. I haven't tried it. It looks wild. You can do it. It's a pain in the butt, and it's obviously, a MacGyver situation. Nintendo won't let any other hardware besides its own controllers easily wake the console up from sleep remotely. And that brings me back to suggesting that, if it's important to you to game with what feels like a proper controller, you kind of have to get this $90 Pro Controller. And okay, let's talk tariffs. So the Pro Controller has gone up since it was announced, but I still think this thing was a bit on the high side price-wise before the tariffs hiked the price up like you're seeing here. I just think that first price is a lot to ask of a controller that, it does have those back buttons. That's nice, but, it's not exactly a pro controller. The DualSense Edge or, the Xbox Pro Controller, those are legit higher end enthusiast level controllers. This is just kind of the controller you would expect to come with the console. And then the other thing that I'll mention on the hardware side, the microSD Express cards. I'm with Nintendo in certain ways. I think that it is important for them to push next generation memory technology and make the console feel fast. It's really one of the bigger things you felt going from PS4 to PS5 is the SSD. And the Switch 1 to Switch 2, if you look at games like Metroid Prime 4, that game loads so much faster on the Switch 2, and it's because Nintendo insists on this technology, but it's expensive. And it's harder to find those memory cards. I think the internal storage, if you've got 256 gigs, if you're just sticking to Nintendo software, I think you can live with that for maybe a little while. Those games tend to be in the 10 to 20 gig range on the really high end. For the most part, they're pretty well optimized. But Skyrim Switch 2 edition was 53 gigs, Madden's like 60 something, Cyberpunk 2077, the digital version is huge. So third-party games are just not going to be tenable on that internal storage. You're probably going to need to go out and buy additional storage because basically only Nintendo is actually putting games on the key cards. Everything else is what they call the game key card, and it's just a download code basically that you plug into your system. So you're going to need external storage, and it's just not cheap right now, and it may not be cheap for a little while to come as this market kind of comes into existence. It's got a long way to go before it catches up with like regular SD cards in terms of price and affordability. Now we're going to talk about software, and I think Nintendo's playing a little loose with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition thing. So my gripe with this is there's two tiers of it basically. There's a $20 premium tier from the original Switch version of a game, and that includes, let's say, a more optimized visual experience and some other thing. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's that phone app thing. In Kirby, it's more modes. And in Mario Wonder, it's this extra park experience or whatever. But there's a $10 version of it where you see Pokemon Legends ZA or Metroid Prime 4, where it's like just the Switch 2 enhancements in a way that really makes me think that you're just charging me a Switch 2 tax where, the game comes with essentially both versions. You can plug, if you buy it physically, you can put it in the Switch 1 and it'll be the Switch 1 version. You put it in the Switch 2, it'll be the Switch 2 version. But there's also these free patches that Nintendo put out for games like Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, where the game on Switch 2 runs a lot better. The frame rate is so much better on Switch 2. Same with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's way more playable on Switch 2 than Switch 1. But for Legend ZA, they upcharge you $10 so the game has an optimal frame rate and maybe a better internal rendering resolution. And those are the ones that make me go, did you have to charge me $10 for that? Did you have to do it? I don't know that we're going to get anywhere on this. It just seems to be what Nintendo's choosing to do. They're not the only ones that have done it. The Sony with the Horizon games, they put out a new port of Horizon Zero Dawn from 10 years ago or whatever on PS5, and they charged a premium for it, even though you could get the PS4 version for like $20, it seemed like, at most times. So Nintendo didn't invent this, and obviously we're all paying it. It is what it is. I will say, the further we get away from Mario Kart 8 launching at $80, the worse that looks. That game, of all the ones Nintendo put out this year, that's like the one that I feel like the least that they could have charged $80 for. It's the game that I put away the quickest. I'm still going back every now and then to Donkey Kong. I'm still going back to Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm really enthralled with Metroid Prime 4, but I hear that game is like on the 10 to 15 hour range, so pretty short. Mario Kart, man, I don't know. It was good. It was fun. I liked it. I like that it exists. $80 for that game, I don't know. Anyway, those are the three things for 2025 on Switch 2 that I was less than thrilled with. Let's get to the things that I really liked. I'm going to start with the games. And I know I just trashed the price of them, but we had a pretty good 6 months. Mario Kart World, awesome. It's about time we got a new Mario Kart game. I didn't love all the choices they made, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad that they thought outside the box with it, because Mario Kart 8 was like the ultimate Mario Kart game. It was, a bajillion tracks and a million characters. So Mario Kart World needed to feel like it was different, and it really does. And I love the knockout mode. It's one of my favorite new things in a Mario Kart game in quite a while. Maybe back to like when Double Dash lets you have two guys on one cart. Donkey Kong. That was a really unexpectedly fun game, and I drank that game. I gulped it because I was just so into it. My wife, she couldn't play it because she got so like stuck feeling the need to break everything that she was like, I can't play this game. I'll never stop. So I loved Donkey Kong. Pokemon Legends ZA. I was pretty cool on this game initially, but the more I played it, the more I kind of fell right back into that Pokemon gameplay loop, and I really enjoy. I think the Legends series has the best idea about catching Pokemon. I want it to be this way for all the mainline games, and I really liked the direct control battle system. The more I got to use it, the more I liked it. I mean, I have quibbles with like the world. I wish the world felt bigger, and obviously I wish they didn't like copy and paste window.jpg on all the buildings. But if that's the idea that they have for Pokemon going forward, like, sign me up. I am on board with that. And Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I mean, this game is really fun, and it's great to look at. It's a Nintendo game that asks you, do you want to play this in 4K or 120 FPS? And it's like, those aren't numbers Nintendo cares about, but here we are. So I am really thankful that we have that game after 8 years of waiting for it. I haven't beaten it yet. I'm still only like 5 or 6 hours into it, but I'm really looking forward over the holidays to hopefully sinking some more time into it. So I think the games this year that we got for Switch 2 were awesome. And those were just the ones that I sank a lot of time to. I know there's even more out there. Kirby Air Riders has its contingent of folks who really love it too. It's been a great, I think, 6-month launch period for that console. I'm pretty happy with it as someone who bought it on day one. Speaking of buying it on day one, that was the most hectic, right? To try to buy a Switch 2. But after like a month, these things are everywhere, and it's great. It is awesome that you could just walk in to any big box store and there's probably like 7 or 8 of them sitting there. There's no scalper market for this thing. You can go in, you can buy it. The games are available. The hardware's available. And I know this is a weird thing to be excited about, but we all watched the PS5 and the Xbox Series X struggle with availability for months. You couldn't walk into a store for years and just pick one of those up and leave with it. So to see the Switch 2, and I know it's a different era, that was the pandemic and this is now, but it's just great to see that Nintendo was able to deliver on this. They talked about, hey, we think we're going to be able to meet demand. We think we're going to be able to do that. And after the pre-orders and even the first like 2-3 weeks where it was hard to find, it felt like by July these things were everywhere and they've stayed everywhere. So kudos to Nintendo for that. And it's nice to see. And the final thing that I'll highlight as one of the best parts about the Switch 2 in 2025 or just in general is I think Nintendo nailed the hardware. I think it feels really good. It looks really good. Do I wish there were more colors? Sure. I'm a big fan of different editions and all that. And right now we've just got the black one. It's fine. But the screen is awesome. And the Joy-Con, like I said before, I could use those if I had to just play games on my couch, in a way that on the original Switch I never could. I miss the Switch 1 OLED screen. I really do. But that's about it. Everything else on the Switch 2 is just so much better. The extra USB-C port at the top so you could charge it or plug a camera into it. The bigger Joy-Con, the better kickstand, the faster loading. I mean, I struggle to, the 4K output is awesome. There's HDR on it, and it's a pain in the butt. And Nintendo's still figuring out how HDR works. But there was a recent software update, and it seems like it's maybe a little bit better and more intuitive to set all that up now. But hats off to Nintendo. I mean, I said it in my review. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a Switch, 2, and it is. It's nothing, it's nothing as revolutionary. I think the mouse controls are goofy, and you will never catch me using them. But nice try, I guess. They still delivered exactly what we needed and what we were asking for, which is take this awesome idea you had with the original Switch and make it a little bit newer, a little bit nicer, a little bit bigger, and let's see what kind of games we get with it. I could see myself using this thing for years and years, but I'm sure I will get the inevitable Switch 2 OLED in 2020, let's call it 9. Anyway, that's what I think about this year for Nintendo. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And what about next year? Nintendo's got a few things up their sleeve, but there's a lot we don't know. Here's everything we do. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you on the next one.